All right, man, I am outside and it is the February. As you can see, I am really outside with a little camera, microphone, and some floodlights and cars going by. Trying to get this done before the neighbors go to bed and they really complain because I'm a little too crazy. We've got some issues going on with your training. You are just finishing week 1. I have made some notes that I want you to work on. I've already designed your week 2 after watching your video review, but there's a couple of important things that I want to tell you more than I want to type to you. It's a little more important for me to explain this to you than it is just for you to read the words. All right, box squats. Now keep in mind, this is the first time in about 2 years I've worked with someone who is literally 7 foot tall. Squats are not going to be the most natural exercise for you. But you didn't tell me you wanted 34-inch thighs. You told me you wanted to squat more. You want to be a little less prone to injury. So we can do that with some really high box squats. You're using a stool. That is perfectly fine. Right now, your depth is absolutely fine on those. No complaints from me. Right now, all of your connectors through your low back, hips, hamstrings, and especially your technique, they are your weak points. We don't need to be pushing you on box squats until we bring up those weak points, especially the technique. It's all going to come together at once, and at that point, then we can start lowering the box down to a little bit deeper. The biggest thing that I see, the biggest thing that I see is when you are box squatting, I tell people, don't squat butt to the box. You're getting set up and you're squatting butt to the box here, butt to the box. I want you to squat balls to the box. Okay, you're going to rotate at the hips. Everything's going to rotate right here when you go down. You're going to point your balls and hit your balls on the box, not your butt. You hit your butt on the box, that's going to put all that pressure right there on your spine. And that's when that spine is going to start doing this kind of business with a heavy weight on your back. And when you come up and it starts going like this, you're looking at some injury. If you can rotate those hips back and go balls to the box, when you come up, push the knees out on the way up, and that's going to be your legs and back and everything tight. It's going to save you from some big injuries, and you're going to use some more weight. Now, you mentioned you're setting up with your feet a little bit wider than shoulder width. Now, you have some weaknesses, and one way that we train the hamstrings is by widening your stance out even more. I used to be 6'2". I'm probably shorter now after lots of years of heavy training, but even now, my squat stance is somewhere around here, my box squat stance. My squat stance for a powerlifting squat is somewhere around here. My weightlifting squat is just whatever is natural, which for me is right about here. So don't be afraid to take whatever stance you need in order to be able to rotate your hips and go balls to the box. If you widen your stance out and point your toes, which is perfectly fine, that's going to allow you not only to set back, See, if you set back with a closer stance, you set back, your shoulders start to come forward as you go down. If you widen your stance out and you start to set back, you can go balls to the box and still keep your chest fairly upright, kind of set in this pocket. One of the ways you do that, some of it is just a verbal cue. That's real life right there. Some of it, this is what I do for my clients. Some of it is just the verbal and mental cue of knees out. Okay, don't think about sitting down. Everyone thinks on the squat, let's sit down. Don't sit down. Okay, rotate your hips, balls to the box, and knees out. If I'm right here and I'm set up and I go knees out immediately, all I'm doing, I'm not sitting back, I'm not moving my hips. If I just go knees out and keep vertical shins, I've already sat down. And this is almost as deep as what you're squatting right now. And that's just pushing my knees out, keeping my knees somewhat over my heels. So now if you think rotate the hips, balls to the box, and knees out, then that lift right here, I feel that. Glutes, hamstrings, little bit of quads, all the right places. That is just simply getting set up, knees out, and rotate the hips. And honestly, that's as far as you need to be squatting right now till you develop the technique and the hamstrings and the ab strength to be able to do it properly. You wonder what they're thinking. All right, now when you are squatting, you've got your squat rack up here. And I know you're having to half squat to stand it up. You are walking back 1, 2, 3, 4, and then getting set up. What I want you to do, get under the bar, stand up. I don't care which foot moves first. You'll probably find one that wants to move first. Take a half step back or a full step back, 1. This other foot is going to move back, and then this foot, it's about a quarter of a step back to catch it. And then squat. You're not going to hit the racks. You're not going to hit the stands. You're ready to squat. That way, you didn't have to risk trying to walk all the way back with a squat for any reason. And if it gets heavy and you get wobbly, you don't have to run a marathon to put the bar back in the rack. So that's just a small detail, just something to think about, something to work on. It's going to come in handy whenever you start going heavy. Now, what I look for in the box squat isn't necessarily how much weight you can use on the box squat. What I look for is the speed and acceleration that you come up off the box with. So if I see a lifter or an athlete get down to the box and stop, because there is a pause. I need a fraction of a second pause on the box. When you get down to the box, if I see them come up slow and grinding, I know they're not ready to add weight. But if they can get down to that box and explode up, and I even feel that in my glutes on the way up, if they're very explosive off the box, their technique is correct, we're ready to add weight to the bar. It's the same thing in basketball. The guy's shooting free throws, and I'm waiting to get the rebound. Whenever I go to box out, you don't box out with your elbows. You don't box out with your shoes or with your feet. You stick your butt into that guy. It comes from the hips. And then the speed in which you can accelerate from that position is going to determine how high you are, more important, how powerful you are whenever you go to grab the rebound. Now, that may be a terrible analogy if you're a real basketball player, but I played basketball on my driveway a ton, and that's how I thought about getting rebounds, blocking out. Use the hips, and then you've got to explode from there to be able to have power in the air when you get the ball. If you are slow from that jump, if you are slow and methodical, well, you can't jump slowly. You can't jump high slowly, and you can't jump powerfully if you jump slowly. So everything comes from the point in which you're blocked out to how fast you can reverse from there. Now, your good mornings, it's great to see you trying good mornings. We're going to work on one thing at a time. What I see you doing on the good mornings, you are here and you are bending forward. Okay, there's no bending forward on the good mornings. Everything is sitting back. Okay, so once you get set up, and once again, take a wider stance, something that's more comfortable for you to put your weight on your heels and the sides of your feet and not on your toes. And think about, once again, hips rotating back. That's it. I'm nice and sore from training yesterday, so my hamstrings are already cramping up. How deep should you go? Well, a lot of people I will see will do the good mornings, and they will go all the way down here. And that's fine. You know what? I can go all the way down here too if I want to. Even though people think I'm unflexible, I can get that deep. What I will tell you is stand up straight. Now bend over and touch your knees. No problem whatsoever. Now I want you to arch your back so hard, and I want you to put your body in a position to where it's basically impossible to touch your knees. So I get here, get set up, arch my back, which is extremely sore from training yesterday, and I'm going to sit back. That's back tightness. Now my hamstrings are tight, and it's hard to touch my knees, and that might have just been my wife who thinks I'm totally sane for doing this. But it's hard to touch my knees. That's how far I want you to go. Super hard arch, push the hips back, only as far as you can go before that arch starts to leave while you're feeling it in your hamstrings, and that's it. So for me, an arched back good morning, boom, I go down till I feel it, pause, boom, and explode up. I'm building the hamstrings, building the hips, still building my technique on my squat and deads, building my low back, building explosiveness, and I'm not putting my spine under any undue stress. That is my wife. Last thing when it comes to Dimmel deadlifts, when I see you setting up. On Dimmel deadlifts, when I see you setting up, what I look for from here, take the bar down to just about where the knee is, You go through a checklist, vertical shins, shoulder behind the bar, is my head up? Am I in a good position? Is the weight on my heels? And then I want to see that bar pop. Here, that's the glute squeezing and the hamstrings. You were using a plate aside. It's the same kind of weight that I use, so that's at least enough. Go down to 95 pounds for a while. This is technique. Get down, sit back, pause here for a half second to a second, go through your mental checklist, and then explode as hard as possible. Boom. Down slow, stop, mental checklist, boom, and explode from there. So man, I hope this helps. Hope everything came through. Hope this is as funny as it absolutely was for me. Keep working, keep sending me more video. You keep asking questions, I will keep finding solutions. As long as you ask questions, I'll keep making these crazy videos until we get you, the 7-foot monster, lifting big weights safely. Talk to you soon, man.